The fire crackles softly. The night is quiet, but listen closely, because elderwood has secrets it only shares when you're still enough to hear them. You didn't expect that, did you? You thought this would be a simple cozy tale, but wait. Let's leave one door ajar, just enough for curiosity to seep in. We'll answer it later. For now, imagine it. A village tucked deep in a green valley, where smoke curls gently from mossy rooftops and the cobblestone paths remember every footstep. And in the very heart of this village, there stands a crooked little shop, its windows glowing like amber against the dusk. The sign sways in the wind. Cedric's curious concoctions. But tonight, it's not Cedric you'll meet first. Tonight belongs to Elsie, wide-eyed, bright-cheeked, a new apprentice with trembling hands and a heart that beats a little too quickly whenever the shop bell rings. And Max, of course. The black cat with green eyes that gleam like two mischievous lanterns in the dark. Max is no ordinary cat. But let's not spoil that just yet. Hold that thought. Elsie had arrived in Elderwood on a misty morning, clutching a satchel filled with hand-me-down notebooks and an eager determination to learn. The shop was smaller than she imagined, its shelves sagging under jars of dried petals, curious powders, and scrolls tied with string. Every bottle hummed softly with secrets. Never underestimate the quiet ones, Cedric had said that first day, handing her a sprig of lavender. His voice carried a patience sharpened by decades, but behind it lived the twinkle of someone who enjoyed seeing curiosity burn. Elsie wanted desperately to prove herself. Every smell crushed rosemary, bitter wormwood, smoky sage felt like the promise of belonging. And Max, weaving between her ankles, seemed to be testing her resolve with every swish of his tail. The first real test came quicker than Elsie expected. "Elsie," Cedric said one autumn morning, "Hatel needs a potion for courage. The harvest festival is tomorrow, and he cannot sing unless his knees stop trembling." Elsie gulped. "Me, make it alone." Cedric smiled, stroking his silver beard. "You'll learn faster by falling. Just don't spill too much on the floor." The bell above the door chimed as Hatel shuffled in. The baker, round and ruddy, smelled faintly of warm bread. He twisted his cap nervously. "If I freeze up again, Elsie, the children will laugh. Please, just something small." Elsie glanced at Max. The cat tilted his head, as if daring her. She set to work: rosemary for memory, honey for sweetness, a touch of lemon balm for calm. Her hands shook as she poured, and then sneezed. The peppercorn jar slipped. A shower of spice dust rained into the cauldron. "Tea." He mixture hissed. A strange scent filled the shop, like cinnamon, but sharper. When Hatel sipped, his knees stopped trembling, but his laugh came out as a thunderous bark. He clutched his throat in shock, then roared again, half laugh, half hound's bay. Elsie gasped, I didn't mean." But Cedric only chuckled from the corner. "Well, courage comes in many forms. At least no one will forget his performance." Max leaped onto the counter, purring smugly, as if he'd planned the whole thing. The harvest festival arrived with lanterns strung across the square and tables groaning with roasted apples and steaming pies. The air smelled of cinnamon and earth. When Hatel stood to sing, the crowd tittered nervously. Then he opened his mouth, and the barks thundered through the night. Children squealed with laughter. Elders clapped their knees. And somehow, through it all, Hatel's chest swelled with confidence. He sang louder, prouder, each bark woven with joy. Elsie, watching from the crowd, felt her stomach sink, but then lift, because despite the absurdity, she saw the baker glowing with pride. And wasn't that the point? Max rubbed against her leg, as if to say, see, mistakes can still make magic. But then, out of the corner of her eye, Elsie noticed something strange. A figure stood at the edge of the festival, tall, cloaked, eyes hidden beneath a hood. He didn't laugh, he didn't clap, he simply watched, and when Elsie blinked, he was gone. The days grew shorter, the shop grew busier. Word spread quickly. Cedric's apprentice brings surprises. Some came curious, some came wary. Finnick, the stable boy, asked for a salve for sore hands. Elsie tried, but the ointment turned his palms faintly blue. He grinned anyway, saying, at least it matches the sky. Madame Cora, the seamstress, wanted sharper eyes for her needlework. Elsie brewed a tea, but it made her see every stitch glowing with light for hours after, overwhelming and exhausting. Each mistake became a lesson, each laugh a small balm. Cedric never scolded, only asked, "And what did you learn?" But late at night, when the coals dimmed and Elderwood slept, Elsie would sit by the window with Max curled in her lap. She'd whisper, "Am I enough for this?" Max would blink slowly, tail flicking, as if to say, "Time will tell." And yet, something lingered. Because one evening, Cedric locked the shop door early. His face was thoughtful, more serious than usual. He pressed a hand to Elsie's shoulder. "Be careful who watches you," he said quietly. "Not all eyes in Elderwood are kind." Elsie frowned. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, then shook his head. "Not tonight. Another time." And just like that, the loop was left open. Elsie carried the question with her. Long after Cedric's footsteps faded into the night, Max stirred in her lap, his green eyes reflecting the flicker of the fire. And in the silence, Elsie could almost swear she heard the whisper of someone's voice far away. Curling through the smoke, the frost came early that year. By mid-November, Elderwood wore a silver cloak, and every rooftop glittered in the moonlight. Lanterns swayed in doorways, casting halos of gold into the snow-dusted streets. Inside Cedric's shop, warmth glowed like a heartbeat. Shelves sagged under the weight of herbs hung to dry, and the cauldron hummed softly as if whispering lullabies. Elsie pressed her palms to the wooden counter, breathing in rosemary, sage, and the faint trace of honey. She wanted to feel steady, capable. But Cedric's words still echoed. Not all eyes in Elderwood are kind. And once again, that figure from the festival flickered in her thoughts, hooded, watching, not laughing. Why had he been there? Why had he vanished? But answers would come later. For now, the day demanded work. "Madame Cora again," Cedric said, adjusting his spectacles. "She's sewing through the night to finish winter cloaks. See if you can help her eyes without making the stitches glow this time, eh?" Elsie's cheeks burned. "I'll try." She reached for chamomile, thinking of its soothing effect, then hawthorn for focus. She crushed the herbs carefully, inhaling each note, like a musician tuning strings. Max watched from a high shelf, tails swishing lazily. When Elsie handed the tea to Madame Cora, the seamstress sipped and sighed. "Better, much better, child." She touched Elsie's cheek kindly. "You'll make a fine mistress of this shop one day." The words bloomed warm in Elsie's chest, but also planted a seed of fear. Mistress of the shop. Could she ever fill Cedric's shoes? That night, Elderwood Square filled with music. Snowflakes drifted like sparks from the fiddler's bows. Children skated across frozen puddles, shrieking with laughter. The whole village seemed wrapped in joy. Elsie walked with Max tucked under her cloak, his head peeking out, whiskers twitching. She smiled at the dancers, the flickering torches, the pies steaming on tables, but then again her heart stuttered. There, at the edge of the crowd, the hooded figure. This time, closer, watching, unmoving. Elsie blinked, and a lantern flame flickered across his face. Pale skin, sharp eyes, glinting like obsidian. His lips moved, whispering to her. She turned to Cedric, but when she looked back, the figure was gone. Another open door left unanswered. The days rolled on, more potions, more mistakes. A tonic for sleep that made villagers dream in rhymes. A poultice for pain that tickled instead. Elderwood laughed kindly, forgiving her fumbling, but the whispers grew. She began to notice it, faint voices at the edge of hearing when she stirred the cauldron too long, or when she lit the lanterns after dark, words curling just beyond comprehension. One evening, Elsie finally asked, "Cedric, do you hear them?" The whispers. He froze. His ladle hovered above the cauldron. Slowly, he set it down. "I wondered when you'd notice." Elsie leaned forward. "What are they?" Cedric's eyes flickered toward Max. The cat's fur bristled. "They are the voices of what has been brewed before. Every potion leaves behind a trace, like an echo in the wood." His voice was low now, serious. "But not every whisper is harmless." Elsie shivered. "And the man at the festival? The one who watches?" But Cedric raised a hand. "Elsie, enough for tonight. Too many answers too quickly can drown a mind. Some doors must stay closed until you're ready." And once again, she was left holding silence. Snow deepened. The shop grew busier. Villagers needed warmth, protection, courage against the bitter winds. Elsie brewed until her fingers ached. She grew braver, sometimes reckless, but always learning. One morning, Cedric pressed a bundle into her hands. "Deliver this to the Eastern Hill, to Abbess Cromie." The name fell heavy, like a stone into a well. Elsie had heard it whispered in the market, the shadow mage, the hermit of herbs. He who knows the roots that grow only in moonlight, always spoken with a mix of fear and awe. Her heart raced. "You want me to go alone?" Cedric's gaze was steady. "If you are to learn this craft, you must face what unsettles you. Go, Elsie, and take Max. He will know the way." Max leaped to the floor with a low purr, as if he'd been waiting for this moment. The path wound steep and silent. Snow muffled her footsteps. Pines loomed, branches bending heavy with frost. Max darted ahead, his dark coat a slash against the white. At the hilltop, a crooked house hunched against the wind. Its windows glowed faint green. Bundles of herbs dangled from the eaves like talismans. Elsie's hand trembled as she knocked. The door creaked open before she touched it. And there he stood, the hooded figure, Abbess Cromie. His voice was low, silken. "Cedric sends his fledgling." His gaze dropped to Max and his cat. Elsie swallowed. "I've brought." She held out the bundle. But Abbess only smiled thinly, stepping aside. "Come in." The air inside was thick with scents she couldn't name, bitter, metallic, sharp enough to sting her nose. Shelves lined the walls, bottles glowing faintly, herbs she'd never seen dangling in clumps. Abbess moved like shadow, robes whispering. "Cedric teaches you courage, but courage without knowledge, dangerous." Elsie stiffened. "He teaches me well." Abbess's eyes gleamed. "Does he? Then tell me, little apprentice, do you know what happens if rosemary is mixed with belladonna under a waning moon?" Elsie opened her mouth, stopped. Heat rushed to her cheeks. Abac's smile widened. No, I thought not. Max hissed softly, tail puffed. Elsie clutched the bundle tighter, wishing Cedric were there. But Abbots leaned closer, his breath cold. Elderwood is full of secrets, child. You'll hear them whether you're ready or not. Remember that. When Elsie returned, the shop's warm glow nearly made her weep with relief. Cedric waited at the counter, arms folded. He studied her face, her trembling hands. Then he nodded slowly. You saw him? Elsie nodded. Why does he watch me? Cedric's eyes darkened. Because you are not invisible, Elsie. Power, even in small sparks, draws attention. Some seek to guide. Others, he trailed off, looking toward the shuttered window. Others seek to claim. Elsie's stomach twisted. Max leaped onto the counter, pressing his warm weight against her arm. His eyes gleamed, fierce and steady. For a moment, Elsie almost believed the cat was guarding her. But outside, in the snow, faint footprints lingered where no one had knocked. And when the wind shifted, the whispers followed. Snow blanketed Elderwood in silence, each flake drifting like a soft promise. By December, icicles hung like glass charms from every roof, and villagers wrapped themselves in thick cloaks, voices puffing clouds into the frosty air. The shop was busier than ever. Candles flickered long into the night as villagers came for warmth in jars and courage in cups. Elsie's hands grew steadier, her mind sharper. Even her mistakes carried less chaos, though Max, of course, still found ways to trip her at the most inconvenient moments. One evening, after a long day of brewing, Elsie lit the final lantern and leaned against the counter. Max purred in her lap, and Cedric sipped tea, staring thoughtfully into the flames. Cedric, Elsie whispered, why does Abac Cromie unsettle you? The old man's eyes narrowed, shadows pooling in their corners. Because he listens to whispers that should be ignored. He trades in secrets best left buried, and secrets demand a price. Elsie hesitated. And me? Why does he watch me? Cedric set his cup down. The fire popped. Because even the smallest spark of light is visible in darkness. Another loop left, half-answered, dangling like a lantern on a windy night. The winter festival approached, brighter than the harvest, but quieter, more solemn. Elderwood lit candles in every window, believing each flame guided lost spirits home. Elsie loved the hush that settled over the village, the crunch of boots on snow, the distant song of carolers, the way Max pressed close to her side, fur warm against her gloves. But this year, something shifted. It began with a dream. Elsie found herself in the shop, though everything was dim, shapes stretching and warping. The shelves leaned like they wanted to fall. The cauldron boiled without flame. Max's eyes glowed brighter than lanterns. And there by the door stood Abac Cromie, his hood lowered, his face sharper, colder. Elsie, he murmured, voice echoing like water in a well. Do you hear it? The whispers call your name. Elsie covered her ears. No, but the whispers seeped through anyway, curling, insistent. Elsie, Elsie. She jolted awake, gasping. Max yowled beside her, fur on end, eyes wide. And though it had been only a dream, she swore she still heard the faintest whisper lingering in the air. The next day, Cedric noticed her pale cheeks. He said nothing, only pressed a vial into her palm. For strength, he murmured, but Elsie felt it. The weight of expectation, the pull of unseen eyes. That night, Elderwood gathered in the square, candles glowing in every hand. Children sang, voices trembling in the cold. Elders prayed quietly. The snow glistened beneath the moon like powdered silver. Elsie stood among them, Max nestled in her cloak. She tried to let the warmth of the festival fill her, the laughter, the glow, the unity. But at the edge of the square, the hooded figure stood again, not hidden this time, watching openly, her breath caught. She turned to Cedric, but when she looked back, gone. Later, back in the shop, Cedric barred the door and lit every lantern. Shadows flickered nervously along the walls. "Elsie," he said gravely, "you must understand Elderwood is not only a place of comfort. It sits on old soil. Stories older than the village hum beneath us. You feel them, that's why the whispers cling to you." Elsie's throat tightened, and abashed, Cedric exhaled slowly. "He believes those whispers are knowledge. I believe they are chains. That is the difference between us." Elsie swallowed hard, staring at the shelves, the herbs, the jars glowing faintly. "So what am I supposed to do?" Max leapt onto the counter, brushing against her hand. His purr rumbled like a promise. Cedric's voice softened. "For now, learn, brew, fail, laugh. That is how you grow roots deep enough to withstand shadows." Elsie nodded, but the unease did not fade. The festival ended. Winter deepened. Nights stretched long and quiet. And one evening, as snow fell thick and heavy, Elsie stood alone in the shop. Cedric had gone to bed early. The cauldron bubbled softly. Max prowled the counter. Then a knock at the door. Her heart jumped. Slowly she opened it. No one stood there, only snow swirling in the lantern light. But at her feet, pressed into the snow, lay a bundle of herbs she did not recognize. Dark, spindly, glistening faintly as if touched by frost. A note tied with twine read only, "Every whisper has an answer." Elsie's breath clouded the air. Max hissed, fur bristling. She shut the door quickly, leaning against it, clutching the bundle with trembling hands. What did it mean? Why her? The whispers rose in her ears again, soft but insistent, curling between the cracks of thought. Elsie, Elsie, and yet, when she looked down at Max, his eyes steady and green, her chest loosened. She stroked his fur, the rhythm grounding her. Maybe Cedric was right. For now her path was simple. Learn, brew, fail, laugh, grow roots. The shadows could wait. She tucked the strange herbs into a jar, sealed it tight, and set it on the highest shelf. A door closed, but not locked. The fire crackled. The snow whispered against the windows. Elderwood slept, and in the quiet shop, beneath the glow of lanterns, Elsie whispered back, "I hear you, but you don't own me." Max purred louder, curling in her lap. The warmth returned. Outside, the village of Elderwood held its breath. Some secrets had been answered, others would wait, and the story was only beginning.